Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Go for a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
Has your living room been overtaken by blanket forts? Is that a child yelling for another sandwich in the kitchen? Do you wake up each morning to a million questions, half of them being, what are we doing today? If so, you may be experiencing the holidays as a parent. Having the kids at home is great, but it can sometimes feel like anything besides a break. So whether you're missing the days of daycare or you're taking the end of this year to reassess your childcare needs, Winnie has everything you need to take the next step. Winnie is a childcare marketplace helping parents find the perfect daycares and preschools. Created by two working mothers frustrated by the time it took to find high-quality childcare, Winnie brings all the important information about nearby programs into one place, so you can easily check out photos, prices, licensing status, availability, and more. You can filter your local options based on your family's needs, and even contact them directly through Winnie to get immediate responses. Plus, it's 100% free. So give yourself a break, at least when it comes to finding the best daycare and preschool for your family. You can view photos, read reviews, and compare programs now at winnie.com. That's WINNIE.com.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to fight monsters. That road has led them to fighting demons, angels, and saving the world.
It's a journey that is taking them to heaven, hell, and back. But they aren't done.
Join our journey as we go episode by episode, following the adventures of Sam and Dean Winchester. We break each episode down with the writers, producers, directors, crew, and actors to bring you the behind-the-scenes stories of how this legendary TV series was made. That guy right there, that's Rob Benedict. He played God and Chuck Shirley.
Hey, and that guy there, that's Richard Spade Jr. He played Gabriel, Loki, and the Trickster. And P.S., he directed a bunch of episodes, too.
Now, while we are insiders, we're also outsiders, because we're not experts. This is our first time watching the entire series, all 327 episodes.
Rich and I have met many of the fans at conventions around the world, and we are deepening our understanding of why you all love this series so much. Because it's really good.
Yeah, it is. Now, listen. There will be spoilers, so consider yourself warned.
And thank you for joining us on this trip we call Supernatural Then and Now. Hey everybody, it's Rob Benedict.
And Richard Spate Jr.
And we are talking about Season 6, Episode 13, Unforgiven.
That's right, Rob. You remain unforgiven.
I will never forgive you, Rich.
Well, you are unforgiven. And everybody knows what you did.
If I'm unforgiven, does that mean I am not forgiving other people?
No, that means you're unforgiving in that case.
Oh.
In this case, you're unforgiven, meaning you're not being forgiven and everybody knows what you did.
So basically nobody likes me.
It's not that. They're just not forgiving you.
Oh, well, that's fun. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. If you haven't yet, please go to Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a 5-star rating and consider writing a review. Let people know why you're listening to the show.
Do you want them to actually write the review or just consider writing the review?
Just consider.
That seems less impactful than just pulling the trigger and writing it.
Yeah, I'm reading the copy that was given to me by HQ.
I'll tell you guys, consider writing a review, and then next week we'll ask you to go ahead and get on it.
Well, I let people know why you're listening to the show.
Better be for all the shirtless interviews Rob and I conduct.
That's right, because everybody...
You can hear our shirtlessness on the podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say, because everybody's listening to our shirtlessness. Okay, Unforgiven.
Are you going to summarize this, son of a gun?
I sure am.
I bet you're all gussied up for this, and you and your soulless Sam dream date. All right, here we go. Rob Benedict.
Yeah,
Summarizing Unforgiven.
I just remembered I have dumb notes to say, too.
Rob's dumb notes. Here they come again. Rob's dumb notes. To be in the head. Rob's dumb notes.
Okay. You're in a particularly mean mood. And it's good. You're in character for Unforgiven. 1 year ago, Sam and Samuel worked. I still don't love that. Why? That's so confusing.
I know, man.
Sam 1 and Sam 2.
When they did that in the writer's room, somebody should have said no. They pitched this idea.
1 year ago, Sam and Samuel worked a case in Bristol, Rhode Island.
At least there's not another set of characters named Dean and Daniel.
I know, exactly. Dean and Deanie. As they were leaving town, they got pulled over by a local sheriff. The cop sees blood on Sam's shirt and no longer believes they are federal agents. He wants to take them into the station. Sam resists and gives the officer a pretty serious beatdown.
Yeah, and by the way, that was a serious pummeling.
Serious pummeling. It was very much like the pummeling that Sam got from Dean earlier this season.
Yeah, very similar. And you go, why? Like, I've never been punched, really. I think one of those Sam Winchester punches,
you're done.
And you'd be down for the count.
That's it.
Like,
That's it.
That cop stood up a long time for a guy who's getting those hits.
No, it's crazy. All of a sudden, it's Rocky Balboa. And Rocky had gloves on.
Yeah.
Doesn't add up. But nevertheless, he beat the hell out of him. And he seems to take some pleasure in beating up the cop because
sure does.
It's Soulless Sam. Soulless Sam. It's nice to see him back.
Robbie's favorite Sam.
Samuel just watches from the side. The two leave the cop on the road while they head out of town. Oh, I forgot to mention here, too, like at the beginning, he shoots like 3 people, blood on his face.
Yeah. We don't even know what's going on.
We don't know yet. So back in the present, Dean gets a text from an unknown number. It gives the coordinates to Bristol. Sam finds out that 3 women recently disappeared in the town. The brothers head out to investigate. Once they arrive, they discover that Sam was there a year earlier to investigate similar appearances. I wonder if this has to do with the thing we just saw. They also find out that at the time, Sam teamed up with Sheriff Roy Dobbs to hunt something taking men in their 30s. The current sheriff, the one Sam beat up, wants to arrest Sam and Dean for the murder of Sheriff Roy and the other victims.
Yeah, wouldn't you want to arrest him? Because wasn't that the guy they beat senseless?
It was the guy that, Sam beat senseless as he's like, pulls a gun on him, yeah. This just in from my dumb notes. Jensen says, if things get squirrely. And I thought that was really funny. It's not things get squirrely, it's things get squirrely. It's his Texas.
Oh, the way he said
it. Yeah, SKWORLY.
Squirrely.
But things get squirrely. Also, the cop says, you must be dumb as a sack of hair. You ever wondered if that was a Rich Spate one?
No, I've heard of sack of hammers, but not sack of hair. That's a good one.
What's funny is that its sack of hair is not going to be very heavy.
No, but also not very bright.
And not very bright, I see. All right. Roy's wife, Brenna, shows Sam the files from where he was there a year ago. He starts to remember that he was there to hunt an arachne, a spider monster that is local to Greece. At the time, he used Roy for bait. The spider monster was too fast and grabbed Roy. Sam decapitated the arachne and then shot and burned the victims, including Sheriff Roy.
I'd be bummed to be Roy bait. I don't want to be bait for the arachne.
No. This was so Sam meets back up with Dean, who has figured out that all the current female victims are women in the town that Soulless Sam slept with a year ago. Say that 3 times fast.
By the way, Soulless Sam was on a tear.
Soulless Sam slept with everybody. All right, so I had written down Soulless Sam, ! And then after he shot Sheriff Roy, I was like, I don't like Soulless Sam anymore.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Soulless Sam was too much. It's too much Soulless Sam last night.
Well, because Soulless Sam shot the sheriff and beat the crap out of the deputy.
Yeah.
So,
Well, anyway, the whole investigation is a trap for Sam. The brothers get a call from Brenna to come over. They're suspicious, but head over to her house. Roy is there, and he is now an arachne.
Guy does a great job, by the way.
Really good job.
A really good job in the role.
Yeah, he really does. He pins Sam and Dean down with webs.
Which is also super gross, may I say. And also in the flashback, they see Roy all webbed up, and Sam kills him.
Yeah.
That's just a gross looking way to be captured by a monster.
I wonder what it was.
Oh, like what they props used?
Yeah.
I don't know. It looked great, though.
Yeah, it looked better than the spider webs that were around. I don't know if you noticed those. Those look pretty fake. There were spider webs hanging around that was like, my Halloween decorations are better than that. So this guy, the Sheriff Roy, he blames Sam for what he is now. Dean uses a shard of glass to escape from the web and attack Roy. Brenna, conflicted, uses a machete to help Sam escape. Sam takes the machete and cuts Roy's head off. Brenna is crushed to know the truth about what Sam did to Roy.
Now, let me ask you a question about that before we wrap this up. She's bummed to find out the truth of what Sam did to Roy. Didn't Sam just put Roy out of his misery?
Ultimately, yes, because...
Oh, but I guess using them as bait. It's the bait part of it, I guess.
Right, that too, yeah. But Roy is also, he had already turned by the time he shot him.
Right. So the bullet did nothing, but Sam didn't know that.
No, he didn't.
So I guess it was more about the using him for bait.
So as they pack to leave, Sam feels guilty about everything he may have done when he didn't have a soul. But Dean insists to Sam that, he wasn't himself. Suddenly, Sam falls to the floor, convulsing as he starts to remember his time burning in hell.
And regardless of what Dean says, Sam remains unforgiven.
Boom. The end. Roll credits.
Roll credits.
I saw that last shot as I thought it's not that he was remembering his time burning in hell. I thought it was like right now his soul is burning. Is that not true?
I don't know. There's no way for us to, I guess we'll know the next episode. Yeah. But it occurs to me that when, not if, they ever make the ice musical of Supernatural, Suddenly Sam is a great title. If they don't want to go with Supernatural,
Suddenly Sam. So Suddenly Sam.
Yeah. And they could be about the soul that,
soulless, suddenly.
Ice, fire, and the whole hell, heaven thing.
Suddenly soulless Sam sleeps with
several citizens.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, man, I don't know how long he was in this town.
No, but he was on a roll.
But good grief, word does not travel fast in that.
Yeah, no.
Little bird.
Yeah, the FBI agent. You know what? There were a lot of really good actors in this one. I liked Sheriff Roy. I liked Sheriff Roy's wife was really good.
Yeah, Brandon, there was a heavy guest cast of people we don't know.
Yeah, the FBI agent that he slept with was really good.
I thought the Copy Pummeled was good.
Copy Pummeled was good. By the way, where is Samuel? Is he still around?
Oh, in the modern day version of it?
Is he still around? He's still around. Yeah, he's still around. We're getting the nod. So I just didn't know why they couldn't yesterday. I watched it yesterday. I don't know why they couldn't call him and say, hey, what happened in this town?
Yeah, you do wonder. It feels like actor availability more than...
But he was in the episode.
Oh, that's right.
It wasn't really a flashback.
It obviously wasn't shot in flashback. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure why he didn't.
Yeah, just feel like they could have tracked him down and said, hey, what?
Reach out to him.
Well, fortunately, Sam is remembering real time specific nuggets that help us piece it through.
Yeah. It was interesting the way it was done, the back and forth of it all, and seeing her and Sam with the soul and soulless Sam juxtaposed with each other in real time was interesting.
Do you know the director, David Barrett?
I do not know David Barrett.
He did a couple of things that were unique that I hadn't really seen before, those extreme close-up shots of people's faces.
Yeah. I thought he did a great job. I thought the way it intercut between the two styles is cool. The black and white was neat.
Yeah, and he would do ECU, extreme close-ups on people's faces, which you don't normally see that extreme kind of shot on Supernatural.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool. And I don't know his background or why we don't know him.
Well, what'd you think, Richard?
Well, before we even start there, let's do this very detailed and specific intro to this segment, which goes thusly. And rich ratings. I really liked it. I liked the juxtaposition.
Wow. You're really coming around on season 6. This is nice.
No, just this one.
Really
this
nice.
Episode.
Nice to see.
Hold your horses.
A little positivity.
I thought it was cool the way we got to see Sam do both things. I thought Jared did a great job in this episode playing both versions of himself.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. And him sort of trying to figure out what the heck the previous version of himself had done was really cool.
I think Jared Padalecki should play more bad guys.
Yeah, he's good at it.
He's really good at that. He could play a serial killer or something.
Yeah, he's really good at it.
I mean that as a compliment to his acting, not that.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think that he was really good at, you said something last week about the episode that was spot on. Seeing Sam with the soul, like the old Sammy, made you appreciate the work he had done in Soulless Sam.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's really front and center this week.
Here. Yeah, for sure. I agree.
That you're seeing Jared Padalecki really carry this episode in a really powerful way.
Yeah.
And watching Mitch Pileggi watch him is interesting. I mean, as soon as Mitch popped on the screen, I'm like, well, this is not going to be good. Anytime you get Mitch playing Samuel, it's not going to be a war Thanksgiving sequence. Some effed up family crap.
I thought the people he was shooting were maybe the cousins.
That's the other thing I liked about this episode. I literally didn't know where it was going or what it was. The mysteries were a mystery to me until they were revealed.
Yeah.
At no point did I figure this out.
Yeah.
I was never ahead of the story.
No. And it was well written episode by
Nab and Laughlin. Yeah. So okay. So I've yapped a lot about what I thought. What do you think?
I liked it. I agree with you. The directing style seemed unique to me, and the way they played the flashbacks was cool. I loved what Jared did in the episode. He had some classic Dean stuff too. The whole time It's funny. I was almost ready to not like it. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but like, because I haven't heard about this episode, Unforgiven, and it kind of crept up on me as like a really good episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If my dumb notes last the whole episode, it's not one of my faves. And they stopped after I don't like Soul to Sam anymore. So I'm just saying, like, it just, it kept my attention. I'm really eager to see what happens next with Sam. And, we knew something was going to happen. We knew he wasn't going to be 100% okay.
Yeah.
And now he's convulsing. And that was not fun to see. I'm also slow. It took me a second to figure out that the Arachne was a spider monster. Like, I was still on the mother thing from last episode. Like, how does this?
Oh,
you know what I mean? So it took me. It was a slow episode for me at first because I'm like, wait,
right?
Does this have to do with the mother of all things, the mother of dragons?
Gotcha. Well, that's very astute of you. I was not even referencing in my mind the previous episode, but yeah. Good point. So I know they could throw you because obviously that mother character is going to come back.
Right.
What are you thinking in terms of facial hair for this one? You're right that it snuck up on you. That was a good way of saying it because it snuck up on me too.
It's a beard that sneaks up on you.
Old sneaky beard.
Old sneaky beard. All right. Then in that case.
Okay. I like where you're going with this theme. All right. I got mine then. My beard is the most recent Kung Fu Panda premiere beard of Jack Black.
Oh, yeah?
And the bit is good because you don't necessarily picture Jack Black with a beard. So his beard kind of sneaks up on you. When you see him with a beard, you're like, holy smokes, that's a massive mofo beard.
I thought he's had a beard for the better part of the last 10 years or so.
He probably has. I just always picture him clean cut.
That's right. Because in Tenacious D, he was clean cut.
Right, exactly.
You're a big Tenacious D guy.
So I'm gonna go with Jack Black, full bearded, like the music video for Oops, I Did It Again,
Mm-hmm.
Jack Black.
Wait, what does that have to do with Oops, I Did It Again?
There's a music video for that that he basically recorded at the premiere of Kung Fu Panda. That's really funny.
Oh, really? Okay. So now you're just talking about your personal memories.
Yeah. Well, that's where I see him. Like, I don't have any home video of Jack Black. It's just stuff I see online, but like, that's the beard.
Yeah. All right. Well, by that same token, then, I'm going to go with LeBron James. I'm going to continue my basketball references, and here's why. You don't think LeBron James has a beard? He always has a beard. And his beard is he's almost has like, the King James beard. It's like, there's not really a mustache, but there's beard on the rest of him.
Yeah.
So if you gun to my head, you said, does LeBron James have a beard? I would be like, no, but he totally does. Snuck up on me. And he's LeBron frickin' James, one of the best basketball players of all time.
He can do whatever the heck he wants.
He can do whatever he wants.
How big does LeBron's beard get? He never lets it go too long, right?
I'm looking at a picture right here that's pretty long.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. I went back and looked at the Jack Black video. It's significant. So yeah. So good. These are good. Good for him, by the way. Good for this episode to get a LeBron and a Jack Black.
Yeah,
that's high praise.
Yeah, good for him.
All right, the LeBron and the Black.
All right, there you go. Well, we have such a treat for you. This is one of our favorite returning guests, mostly because he comes with his own questions.
And his own, like, samples of sound and stuff.
And his samples of sounds. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's right. It's the supervising sound editor, Michael Lawshe. And here's our conversation with Michael.
So let me start by asking you, in the opening scene, Sam gives the sheriff a beatdown. So
A brutal
beatdown.
Absolutely brutal.
How do you build the punch sounds? Supposedly in Raiders of the Lost Ark, they slapped a leather jacket with a baseball bat.
That is true.
How is that built?
Sometimes we do that. Well, some of it will go to library for sounds like that, but then we'll add, because we wanted it to sound more brutal as we went on, we started adding more elements into it. So like the first one might be, if we were adding it, building the sounds on a Foley stage, it might be doing the same sort of thing where you have like a baseball mitt with a ball in it and slapping it into a leather couch. You go, thump, so you have a really quick kind of meaty sound. And then as we went on, we'd add additional crunchier sounds to it, like bones are being moved at the same time as the beats. So it just kind of gets worse and worse and worse as each punch goes along.
You definitely start to hear, even my old tinnitus-filled ears, you start to hear crunch. you start to hear like bone on bone.
Yep.
Brutal.
And it's funny because in this season, we started getting our first, I shouldn't say first, since the first season, we started getting a couple of network notes because they changed over to different S&P folks. And so it's kind of like, ooh, that's kind of gushy, kind of wet. And it was kind of like, okay, so how are you listening to it? Well, I'm listening to it with headphones on. It's like, well, that's going to be like right in your skull.
Yeah.
It's really a scary sound at that point.
Right.
Yeah, listen to it on the TV.
Well, that's an interesting, okay, so slightly off topic, but on topic. What do you want a network to listen to this on? A TV speaker? Like, when you're getting notes from S&P, standards and practices, for those who don't know, they would give Mike a note if something seemed too violent and make him dial it back, right? That would sort of be where they would step in.
Right.
So what are you hoping they listen to it on?
We're hoping they listen to it in a way like, as I might call it, near field. So you have some form of speakers, right now it's the worst ever because people are putting earbuds in, and we talked about that before. That's right, inducing right into your head. It doesn't have full range, but ideally either in super flat headphones or in something where you have a speaker that's a little larger than a TV, so that it's going to get pulled down a little bit as time goes on. So something like 5-inch monitor speakers, where the woofers or the mid-low end is about 5 inches, is great, like you would doing music of near-field mixing.
Do S&P folks have access to that kind of screening facility?
It depends. I remember I'll go to the Wayback Machine for you. At ABC once upon a time on Prospect, they had some really ancient speakers sitting up there that they did air tests on. And I went back 20 years later and the same speakers were there.
Wow.
And they were filled with dust, and it was just kind of going through. I walked in the room with my hands on my head because the sound of 200 monitors all squealing out with their own, meaning picture monitors,
right,
squealing out with their own little bit of resonance on it was like, man, can't you hear that? And they went, what? So it depends on where it is.
You got the ears for it, though. Yeah,
But to answer your question, also S&P usually doesn't listen to the final. They're listening to the cut before we finish mixing.
Okay.
So some of the stuff that we get notes on are things we can take care of in mix. So if the picture editors put in a really crunchy, wet, slappy sound on top of something, it's like, can you pull that back a little bit? It's like, we might change it. We might change it up so it doesn't have that specific sound, because that will be on their list for, at this place, it was just a little too violent. It's like, okay, well, we'll go a little differently, or we'll build the sound with different elements so it doesn't have that one thing that was harder for them to accept.
Right.
And you're talking about the sound of building the sound of the beatdown.
Yeah.
Do you guys have in the library, in the Supernatural specific sound library, a Sam punch and a Dean punch that you use as a baseline?
Actually, yes.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we did, and it's a good point, because as we went on in scenes where they grab each other and kind of grab each other by the coat and dial each other across the room, which they do all the time, we would have specific grabs, because Dean would usually be wearing a barn jacket. Right. And Sam might be wearing a different sort of coat, or sometimes leather or something like that. So you have a different sound as they're even shoving each other or grabbing each other to talk to each other up close.
Wow.
So yeah, we would follow it, and we would add that, as you said, library specific, and then also let the Foley stage go through and perform it, and then put the two together. So you always have the element of what you have being that signature sound, along with what seems to motivate the action.
That also keeps it sounding repetitive, though, because you're building on it every time.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Wow. Interesting.
Just like they all put aside shoes, which is a huge deal for Foley artists. Is like, those are Dean's boots. We don't use them for anybody else. These are Sam's.
Right.
We don't use those for anybody else, so that they have a very specific heavy sound. Even if a woman is walking the scene, they have the right sound boot.
That's so cool.
That's amazing.
Okay, guys, hold on. We're coming right back. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. And now back to the episode.
All right, Michael, do you want to start taking us through some of these cues that you have?
Sure. If you don't mind. So this is Supernatural Unforgiven, season 6, episode 13, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
So Jay Gruska was the composer for this, and he and I talked a lot while we were starting it.
Yeah.
So we were talking about how do you create an environment as many different really quick flashbacks, and whether we're in the past or the present going back all the time, how do you denote that? And Jay just said, if I hit every one of those flashbacks, it'll be very weird. It'll be weird because the music will be wall to wall through those entire scenes. And if they changed a little bit to move a piece of music that is maybe a drum flash or a cymbal or something for each time the picture jumps, would be very difficult. It would be easier for us to do it, which is a good thing we made that decision, because the picture editor and producers added 30 or 40 more flashbacks in specific little places where they just would be quick jump cuts to just break up the action.
Right.
In remembering things.
You'd
see all these different really quick things, and then it felt weird not having a sound on each of them.
Right.
So we would go through and go, okay, wait, we got to watch this. We got to watch it. Yep, we missed one. Okay, let's add another one there. And it was very, very not tedious, but it was really hard to keep the concentration of like, the picture jumped again. Do you want to hit this one? Well, yes or no. And so different producers would make a decision in playback. That's okay. We don't need one. We need that one. That's a big one, because we see a big change and shift between the light in the background, the light in the foreground. So we know we're somewhere else a little bit, or boom, we're in on a close-up.
So it's basically switches.
Yeah, like switches, right. It's like being on a switcher and switching back and forth between things. So that's a good way of putting it, because we try to create a bright sound to make those transitions so that they would call attention to themselves, but not play them so loud that they would be more important than the action, because there was often dialogue on top of the action at the same time.
Right.
So what we do fairly often, I'll play a little something. We do a flashback rumble, like we talked about before, of a kind of almost ultrasonic, very low sound like this.
That's cool.
Underneath those flashbacks
That's so cool. That's so subtle.
Yeah. It's really
like
low. Exactly. It's like if you push hard on your headphones, you start going, oh no, a big one's coming.
Yeah,
oh
exactly.
no. So we'd have that, and then we were trying to build out flashback transitions. So we take a sound that was for a long transition, but a lot of these transitions were only 1 or 2 frames, or just right on top of a frame. So they can't be long. So that might be the original sound. Then here goes faster. And there's another one. And here's a couple more real quick. So that kind of has a breath in it.
Yeah.
And then we might do a big boomy transition for something that was really important.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So cool.
So we have all those, and then we started making them shorter and quicker. Like we'd speed them up because the shots were really quick. They were just quick flap over. So we'd take those, speed them up, make them a little bit different, but still use pieces of those. When it's an important big transition, we'd add that low end boom on top of it if it's not on top of dialogue.
Right.
How is that sound itself built? How is a whoosh built?
Sometimes it's built organically with actual cloth and moving it across a curtain. The coolest thing we did a long time ago with some other guys at Warner Brothers is we would take for buys and hearing really a sound of movement on it, we would actually take objects and fling them past in front of a microphone, so that you would take like a wing nut, a large wing nut, put it into a launcher, like
a rubber band.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like a rubber band launcher, or that Dennis the Menace had his slingshot, and fling it. So the slingshot might be 10 feet away from the microphone, and then you spin it right by the microphone, and you'd have a whooshing. Yeah, dude. It was a very interesting sound. And so if the microphone stays steady and you move the sound in front of it, it's going to Doppler just a little bit, just like being in your car and hearing a siren go by, but just at really high speed.
Right.
And so we could take that sound and get some of those whooshes that way.
Wow.
But a lot of times we might just use a heavy cloth like muslin and really just grab it and pull it so it doesn't have a crinkle sound, but it would still have a movement sound that you go across it.
Oh, yeah.
Or you would do it with synthesizers.
Right.
Like that breath sound of that you heard a second ago.
Yeah.
That is a sample of a person actually doing that, which has lots of echo and reverb put on top of it, and then slowed down and made a little bit more. And then you could actually put it on a jog wheel on a synthesizer and actually twist it. And slow it down in the middle or make it move a little bit as you're going.
Right.
It's kind of cool.
That's incredible. I love the analog way of building that sound. It's really cool.
And that's what I'm saying. Like young editors may not even
ever have to do that kind of thing.
Right, because they won't know how it was done.
And we have an extensive library now. It's all there.
Yeah.
It's like, I want this one,
I know.
Back in the day, you built it.
You built it. And sometimes, and once you have a signature sound, you keep using it because it has the emotional impact, even on a cartoon. I mean, okay, here's a geek moment for you. Ready? Since we're all talking the same sort of show, the old Hanna-Barbera libraries and things and all the cartoon beeps and honks and things, a lot of those were vocals that were done and then sped up and slowed down a whole lot. When we finally when I, had a synthesizer, put in the sound effect and said, what does that sound like 3 octaves lower and slowed down? One of the things, if like on a Flintstone effect, was actually somebody saying, what the heck is going on? Quite literally like that. And so sped way the hell up 4 or 5 times. It goes, and it just goes really fast because they played it backwards and really fast. And it had a really cool feel.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow, that's that's a trip, man.
If I can remember which one it is, I'll send it to you guys because it is one of those things you go, of course it is. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it, right? It's like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Wow.
So the jump cuts, I don't know. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them in the show. And as everybody probably knows, what I consider to be a jump cut might not be what people think of in other horror films and things. But when you have a very, very quick change of time, place, or action really fast, I'll sometimes call that a jump cut. It doesn't mean cutting away from the scene, but I'm talking about a piece of movement where the camera is not continuous between point A and point B.
Right.
Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to some people when they say a jump cut. It's like, well, we're not jumping out to the sands of the Kalahari and then suddenly back somewhere. It's like, no, I'm talking about just a quick separation of what's linear. So you go, oh, wow. That was different. We're somewhere else. A little bit of time has happened, or somebody's POV is changing.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Good point.
Yeah. Then what else you got?
I got some weird things for you. Well, I wanted to tell you that we had, it's the goofs that we find out later because when we finally see the thing in HD years later on big screens, some things we didn't notice, like 12 minutes in or something like that, when the sheriff pulls over Sam, before when we see the scene that had happened that caused the beatdown when he got crazy.
Yeah.
The sheriff pulls out the gun and I specifically remember which producer wanted to hear the hammer back of the gun, and we all argued over and over again and saying, okay, but the hammer's not back.
Yeah.
So we kind of cheated that sort of sound with like the gun is shaky or loose at the same time on it to kind of go, okay, but it just one of those things that every time I see that go by, it's like when I hear somebody somebody's pulling back the gun hammer, I look very carefully and say, is the hammer really back on that
Right,
shot?
sure.
In this instance, no.
Funny how the sound does the job for the brain, though, sometimes.
It does. It adds that tension of like, oh, crap, that's it. Now it's a hair trigger. We're going to go, right?
Right.
I told you guys a long time ago, too, that they're sitting in the safe house, right, at 18 minutes or so, Sam and Dean in the abandoned house. They wanted it to be in the middle of nowhere. So there's no birds. There's no real traffic going by. It's just sitting somewhere. So they didn't want you to be birds connotated to the producers as being happy or being safe. And so they said, that's not it. This is not a good place to be in. There's, it's a crappy location. They're in hideout there. They can't even afford a motel room now.
Right.
They're out somewhere and they're listening to the police radio. And so we record those often specific to the scene. So if we know we're in a specific location, we'll look up ahead of time, or at least I like to do that, look up is it a sheriff's department? How many people in this little town would there be in the sheriff's? Maybe there's 6 cars. So it's like, 106, please report to, we'll just do that. So we have no more than a certain number and each location might have a different call. And then there was a specifically scripted police radio call that you hear. And it is one of the 2 guys who is on almost every episode, which is Art and Mike. So Art is on the radio doing a police call at that moment, and he's the one you specifically hear in the background.
Wow.
So he's the one who would do vocal replacements when we couldn't get Sam. And so he would be there on the episode almost every time.
Well, let's hear it. Do you have that queued up?
And Interior Papa, we got a 1057 1100 block Oak Street, over.
Missing person.
It's awesome.
But we recorded that specifically with him. He's got a great big voice, and so it's like he's the sheriff, obviously calling in some help on this and that. But it doesn't sound anything like the sheriff or the guy who he did the beatdown on, who had a much higher register voice.
Right.
I was going to say, I'm looking at this list, and one of the things you have bolded is at 32 minutes, the piano hits by Jay Gruska.
Yeah.
Explain what that notation is meaning here.
Sure. So Jay had a really great idea, which was to do percussive hits literally with soft mallets, on the strings of a piano to be able to make an impact of hitting it and then dragging it along. So there's some piano hits that hit, and there's something about that because you have all the strings. It's in a way, it's still very human and it's very vocal. So I can play you one that's kind of like what he was doing.
Whoa.
Isn't that cool?
So that's a mallet on a piano string.
Yep. So let's say you took a timpani mallet and then hit in two places. So you're playing it like a glockenspiel in a certain way, that you're hitting it and then taking it off. And then he put a couple of pieces of metal or wood on top of those strings too, so they would continue that vibration.
Wow.
You want to hear it again?
Yeah.
Yes. That's so cool.
Isn't that
so
awesome?
And there's no external additives there?
There's a
It's
delay in there. There's a delay, no?
Just reverb. Reverb.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But it's a really cool thing because you're actually partially right, Rich, because there is another thing in there too. He did a scrape at the same time on the very top of it. So he's scraping on one side and hitting it with the mallet on the other. There were two. He and his assistant were doing it at the same time.
Okay.
So it was recorded live to be able to do, and then you pick it up and put them where you need to. And he knew what key he was working in, and so he would do portions of a chord to be around that key, so be able to go in, so it would build tension.
Awesome.
And when does that come in the episode? When
32 minutes and change, right
what's
after
happening?
right after the arachne's head is cut off. There are these piano shock scares as we're jumping back.
Right.
Yeah, he did it a couple places.
It also tells you a little bit like how to feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
If you're playing like really nice music or something, you're like, oh,
good. I know it's not suddenly, some sweet piece of strings coming in and telling you, the tension is relieved. It's like, no, it's even worse.
No, that's a head that came off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really intense.
It's really cool stuff. So we also would do, the transitions changed over time too, because sometimes as the scenes got longer, we would have like a transition to get into those flashback scenes as they went. So we might go through and do something like this. And then that same sound we would play backwards coming out of the scene. So you'll hear it in about 5 seconds. So you heard that coming in, and then here it is coming backwards at you. We'll just be patient because here it comes.
Right. Wow.
That's super clever. Super clever idea.
But it's not so big that you really just pay a ton of attention to it, but it's like, wow, it's like a wave came over you and then came back.
100%.
Right. I see here you have Dean Foley cut web with glass, not too loud.
Right. So he's got a piece of broken glass, and he's trying to cut
out of the web.
So this was one of the things we talked about at the very beginning. We talked about network notes and standards and practices notes. They were concerned that it sounded gushy. It's like, it's spiderweb. It's not flesh.
Right.
But we did actually, just like old time Foley, we actually used chicken pieces and did some pulls apart to kind of make it sound.
That's gross.
Fleshy.
I know, but that's why you hopefully do that, like a long session of that one time, wash your hands really good. This is on the vocal stage, put it away, and then you keep it because you can keep
you eat
using
it for lunch.
Yeah. I wouldn't, but yeah, it's slimy. And so the brighter the sound is, if that's what makes everybody unhappy, then we might roll off the high end on it a little bit. So here's some viscera for you guys.
Oh.
But just imagine now if it's quieter. Here it is quieter. Is it something moving? Is it the snakes from Indiana Jones? Why, yes, it is.
Oh my God. That is so gruesome.
Now you're paying attention. So then you cut something with a knife that isn't beautifully sharp. It has like little divots in it so that as you cut, you get a little bit of chunkiness out of it.
What is this I'm hearing?
That is honestly cutting steak. Mike to about an inch away. So using that sound as they're cutting through the web, you go, oh yeah, it's got some tension to it, and it's also gushy at the same time. Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And watching the episode, I bought all of that.
Because that's a hard thing. It's awkward, and he's kind of pulling at little pieces of it, and so they performed it in sync, and then we added other stuff on it because we wouldn't want the Foley artists have enough to do, but to try and sync all of that because there were dozens of intercuts to him. I'm cutting a little more. I'm cutting a little more. I'm cutting a little more. It started it would be difficult for them, so we didn't make them do the chicken gut handling. We would cut that in and say, okay, that kind of works, and move on, and that kind of works, just to give that wetness, as it were, the edge of wetness on the top of it.
That's really, and so the chicken is what you had to turn down? They thought that was too wet and gross?
Yeah, that's the usual thing if you have a stab.
Turn down the chicken, they said.
Turn down the guts. It's like, all right, yeah, okay, we'll turn down the guts.
It is, I'll tell you. It's gross in the headphones. I know Robbie.
It's the worst of the headphones. I'm not gonna play the other one that's even worse because
Robbie, what's that thing that people do that's really popular now? It's SMR or something where people do
AMSR.
AMSR. Yeah.
It almost sounds like that.
Well, that's just it. Anything that's too close to your ear. I mean, for me, I don't know, forever. It's like if someone's chewing gum right next to my head, I want to just throttle them because I just don't like that. I just don't like that sound. Or chewing popcorn right behind your head or something. It's like that's taking me out of my focus of what I'm doing.
Yeah. You wouldn't like watching movies with me. I'm the worst with popcorn. I'm just a loud popcorn.
Well, that's fine. But I could lean back a little bit, if I had to. But it's one of those things that doing. A really long time ago, we had access to. I think I told you that an early one on. We had access to one of the microphones that are built into a human head. So you've got 6 microphones going around it. So you've got left and right ear, front lobes, and the back. I don't tell you this one.
No.
I forget what it's called. It's a really cool recording thing that has 6 channels, and it has foreground, background, left and right in it that records them all simultaneously. A couple of drummers really did a big thing with that, where they would hang it over the drum kit, and you'd get this incredible sense that you were in the drum kit playing.
Wow.
And it was a really cool thing. So we did that I did that for a project at Disney Imagineering many moons ago to be able to play with somebody cutting hair. And so the sound of somebody cutting hair right next to your ear is really nasty when you play it right in your ear and you're not expecting it. Because when you're getting your hair cut, the sound of the scissor is going to be there.
Right.
So we did a thing that is still going at Disneyland and a couple other places during the Mr. Lincoln, unless they've changed it. I know they were updating it right now, where somebody would be talking through to someone in a chair, and you'd hear cutting of hair and stuff like that right in their ears. So we did do that, but we recorded it with one of those type of microphones. So it really, you'd feel it coming across the front of your head to the back, even with normal headphones on, because the phase relationship would change a little bit.
Whoa. That's wild. That is wild.
It's pretty weird stuff.
So what's the thing you have here about, Sam's scream? And reverb, like Dean tortured.
Yeah. When Dean fell into hell way back on season 2, the reverb and the length of the reverb we used on that is the same, so that we tried to make it sound the same. So when Sam wakes up in hell, the yell that he did carries all the way across the cuts, all the way into the black and across the credit, which we almost never did. And so you'd hear that yell and that same echo, like he's absolutely lost in the longest tunnel in the world, continuing over. So the sound of fire and roar and everything else ends as we go to black, but his voice continues all the way at the end.
Do you have that? I love that kind of thing where a show ends and it's like not the normal music cut and it stays on the audio.
Yeah, I think it's so creepy, especially when other things that you're in roll around it and then suddenly it goes in and keeps going farther, because it just says there is no end, right? It doesn't. It just says it keeps going.
I should correct it. It was Dean's scene in hell. It was the end of season 3, because at the beginning of 4 he comes out of hell thanks to Castiel, right?
Right. Right. He's hanging on hooks over the fire, etc.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
we did this really loud Sam, and the Sam echoed. So the same thing was happening in the yell at the end of the scene with them, because we actually timed it to see what the sound was, even though it was two separate mixing teams at the time. But we just wanted to make sure it sounded pretty close the same way.
That's amazing.
When you're doing the process and you're getting down to the nitty gritty on an episode, the final notes, mix notes from production, not the S&P people, but who delivers those? Is that a Bob Singer? And
who delivers them to the stage for notes on the show?
Well, I don't mean like who has notes for you? Is it just Bob Singer and Eric Kripke or Sarah Gamble? Or do you hear from the writers as well? Are you hearing from a deep bench of people?
At this point, when we were in it, it wasn't a very deep bench. It was probably 3 or 4 people in the room. And the picture editor would be there too to make sure nothing was missing, or that they're being in every edit, the information was there.
And then spotting the episode, same?
Yeah, spotting the episode would be, as we talked about before, the director's basically never there because they're off on another project by the time we're spotting the episode.
Right.
You might have one writer in on an episode. It just depended on the timing, because by that point, Supernatural, the way the shows were written and the way it was posted, a lot of things changed in between. So it may not have had the same through line. The writer would be in if there were added lines or if there were things that need to get tightened up for timing, etc. But they weren't there a lot. It just depended on the episode. Usually all those notes would be handled by the picture assistant or by the picture editor of why we're doing this ADR line here. On this episode, most of the ADR was adds or changes of line because time was pulled out.
Did you have a specific person in your department who would spot, like a junior member of the squad who did the minutia work of that?
Oh, you dreamer. It was usually me.
Really?
No, because it's so hard to translate unless somebody's sitting there taking notes simultaneously. Some of the things go by so quickly, it's better to have it in your head and do the notes as close to immediately as possible. 2 days later, it's not fresh in your head anymore.
What do you mean when you guys are saying spotting?
Oh, when we're in a room together and we'll play the most recent cut of the film with the temporary score and temporary effects and dialogue and temporary ADR in, playing the show down. Here it is locked. And then they play it out and they will stop through with pieces and say, okay, at this point, what we'd like to have is, obviously we can't use this music cue. It didn't clear, or maybe it's from some other movie or whatever, but this is the tone of it. That will be discussed with the composer.
Got it.
Then for ADR, it would be, we need to have that specific police radio call at this point. And so maybe the assistant editor would have read that radio call and put it in. And we'd have a discussion are we going to keep Bruce, or are we going to put somebody else in? No, we want it to sound like our show. So we want to have one of the background actors who are usually in it. Or it might be Dean needs to we need to add a line for Jensen to transition across this section because it's a thought process that kind of got cut down. We pulled 30 seconds out of the scene because we had to just kind of get out. We decided to get out and go quickly back to a flashback again.
Right.
Yeah. So essentially, it's spotting the trouble spots. Right. It's kind of going through and literally going, we need a sound there, take that out there, turn it up there, turn it down there, add this. This is a weird gap.
Yep.
Right.
Right. For the most part. And as we all got more comfortable, some of the things you stopped talking about. They stopped saying, make sure that door closes behind him. It's like, we know that.
Right. Is there understood? So that's, you just answered my next question, kind of. Is there an understood baseline of, for the lack of a better term, I'll call it spotting, of just, that when you see the scene, we know there's going to be Foley added. We know there's going to be creaking wood. We know there's going to be a door closed. All the things you're seeing on camera, no one has to make those notes because it's an obvious, all the sound will be filled in there. If we're seeing it, we're going to hear it, basically.
Right, for the most part. It depends who comes in. If it's someone who isn't usually in on a spotting session, we might hear that. And that's when, as actors, anyone else, when it's kind of like, I know I need to close the door and turn my shoulders. I close the door and so the camera hits me. You know that over time.
Right,
yeah.
Or don't slam the phone down in the middle of your line. You know that instinctively, but sometimes it happens as you're doing the scene. So you don't need to be told that unless it's after the fact.
Right.
It's like, let's do another take, and hey, make sure you do that extra beat on it. But yeah, there are times where the opposite is true, where it's like, no, we had a really specific thing that we couldn't temp. This is the idea we want to have is we want to kind of have that background kind of, I don't know, move or breathe under it. And then we would go, oh, great. Do you want to do it in music or do you want to do it in sound effects?
Right.
And we'd talk through that and what the tone would be.
And so let me ask you this. If you're watching, Lachey's watching and you're going, we have this gap and Sam turns, I really think Dean should be like, hey, Sam, or something. We'll just like that. Do you have the authority to drop that in, or do you have to run that through like a writer because it's written word? Do you have to go, can I put in a hey Sam here?
I usually don't do that, but I'll do that. I'll send it through to the associate producer who will then set it up the line really quick to say, I think it would be good if we had this. And 99% it's always going to be, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I would assume.
Because it's better to have it and then not use it.
Right. Because what you're doing is not etched in concrete. You can do it and then just they go, nah, then you just don't do it.
Well, those guys, they were really great at following thought on script, but not inch by inch by inch on words because they had so many lines to memorize all the time. Some scenes might squirrel around a little bit and not have the exact pattern, but some of the lines are going to be exactly as written. There are some things that just don't go there. And they're just like, a really good note that helps a lot is that we'll ask, like in that safe house at the beginning, there's no glass on the window, so air is going through it. So we'll all ask it at the top of it. I said, so this is the way it is, right? There's always wind going through it. Oh, yeah, we didn't think about that. So yes, there will be. So we have, so we'll add things in the spot or ask questions that make it better for the whole production.
Amazing.
That's cool. And it takes a village sort of concept too.
Completely. And then over time, we might say, hey, remember when we did blah, blah show or this episode, what if we did something that's kind of like that, but we'll make it more part of this episode? So using human vocals for transitions and things like that have I think they're scarier than just using a straight synthesizer because you kind of go, something's alive. We talked about that before.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it might be scary to have in something, even though one's kind of a trope, which is hearing a heartbeat behind someone as they're talking. It's been done since the 1930s, but it's still very effective. So if I can play a little something, there's a man's vocals way behind this, and there's also a heartbeat in it.
Wow. Total trippy, man.
So it's really weird and yet cool because you kind of know there's something, I don't know, dragony or something scary down there at the same time, but it's really somebody going, oh, but then pitched and made really scary sounding on top of it, along with a heartbeat. And that was one of the sort of things that was swirling around Sam as he was trying to remember what was going on. Like there's something pushing on his brain as memory going through there.
Wow. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really intense. It just, every time we do sessions with you, I know that listeners love it because we meet people who listen to this podcast all the time, and you're always top of list of people they love hearing from because no one really understands how many colors are painted by the sound until you start breaking it down and pulling it apart and specifically showing it. And you're like, oh my gosh, I think people would freak out if they saw a scene before the sound had been put in. I don't mean the dialogue. I mean, everything else. I think it would be baffling for people to see the before and after because it's what you do is so detailed and so great.
And also the sound is when you pull it out, you realize how much the sound is a part of this show. When you hear that whoosh, that's the certain ones that you have, you're like, oh God, yeah. I hear that all the time. Like that's the show. So it really, it really makes you appreciate what you do, Michael, what you brought to this show.
Well, that's cool. I appreciate it. I want to play you one more thing if we can really quick, which is here's some things we did also with vocal, things that I had created for another, well, partially for that episode, but another one that we'd done earlier. So it's kind of a transitional vocal. So that is actually women all yelling on top of each other and then tweaked out, just like there's some man. Oh yeah, here's another one.
Sounds like my tummy is hungry.
So they're actually saying a word very slowly. It's something I created for Smallville, believe it or not, which is the word apocalypse, which was the planet and that was supposedly crashing into the earth. And so I had guys all saying apocalypse, but very soft in the P's, and then taking it about 4 octaves down.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
That is really trippy. Yeah, it's so cool.
So that as we're going into hell, that's one of the things you're feeling going through, along with the screams, which are synced around the fire as it goes forward to you. And then the fire we did in pieces, so that here's 3 parts of the fire, and then you hear it all together. So that's the ignite. So I hear it all.
Oh my God, it just sounds so hot.
So hell.
So hellish. Is any part of that fire sound actual fire?
Yep. It's actual fire, and some of it's helped along a little bit. Like one of them is a campfire I recorded years ago up in Yukon Territories, as a matter of fact, on a trip, which is this one.
Oh, wow.
The file's called Mike Burning the Weenies.
or fish in that particular case, but yeah. And then we have one piece of which we talked about once, is that doing sound magic, which is how do you create something off stage that they don't want to pay again? Like when we cut off the head of the Arachne, and it's off camera. They did one on camera and they did another one off camera. This one they didn't shoot, so they didn't have to digitally take it off. So instead, we just cut his head off camera, as you do, and then had it drop and roll.
Oh.
It's all in there. But see, exactly exactly the face you pulled is what the standards of practice would go. It's too gushy in the middle. It's like, okay, so we'll remove the middle of it. But you'll hear shing, thud, 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 because the thud is funny.
These would be great for the podcast, Rob, when you be like, when you get tired of my criticizing your dumb notes, you can be, why you shrink?
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you specifically so you can have that.
Perfect. So
That's
right.
right.
Ahead me.
That's right. Yes, the last episode.
This is so great
Michael,
and
thank
cool
you so
and
much.
interesting, man. Like, and more of this. Thank you for taking the time, not just to come see us, but to do detailed notes on where the sounds are.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating to go through. We could do every single sound here if we had more time. It's great. So please, anytime you want to lean in like this, please do so, because it's
love
great
it.
for
We
us
really
and
love
for
it.
the
Yeah.
for the
I
listeners.
appreciate it. It's been great working with you. You guys are doing a great job, and please tell the rest of the staff that they really do a cool job keeping everything going and rolling on all of them. Sounded really great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you, Mike. I
Thanks.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Michael.
Have a good day.
Hey there, it's Misha Collins. If you're like me, you want a break from the sound of Richard Spate's voice, we'll be right back after this.
Thank you for supporting Supernatural then and now. And now, back to the show.
Well, I mean, he's such a treat.
I mean, talk about learning something every time we have an interview with that guy.
I could ask him questions all day.
I know. And I love that he brings his own samples and stuff. It's so cool.
So cool.
I hope anybody who's listening to this podcast, go listen again with headphones on. Just listen to these sound things he drops in. It's amazing.
Yeah. I love that he remembers. He remembers everything too.
If he doesn't remember, he certainly does a deep dive to go back and discover it all, because he has people heard us mention it. He sent 2 pages of notes in advance of this interview. So it's really awesome.
Really terrific. One of our favorites. Let's just take this right into, this is a section of the show that we like to call mythology.
Mythology.
So Arachne is a Greek myth, Richard?
So weird, because I could have sworn Arachne was a Greek mister.
What did I say?
Greek myth.
Oh, mythster. Jeez.
Arachne was a skilled weaver. Ooh, skilled weaver. She was so proud of her skill that she challenged Athena, in parentheses, bad idea, the goddess of war, handicraft, and reason, to a weaving contest. Now, in Arachne's defense, Athena was the goddess of war, handicrafts, and reason. Weaving wasn't in there.
Right, sure.
She probably thought that was her Achilles heel.
Right.
A little nod to Achilles.
Yeah. Achilles like, what do I have to do with this?
Leave my heels out of this. Athena disguised herself as an old woman, which you would go, Arachne wouldn't see under that shawl the goddess of war.
No.
Grandma, you look an awful lot like the goddess of war, but okay. Anyway, Athena disguised herself as an old woman to warn Arachne about comparing herself to the gods. Arachne refused and insisted on the competition.
Again, bad idea.
The gloves came off. The woven gloves came off. Athena wore a tapestry depicting the gods in majesty, much like you often wear a sea captain's outfit, Rob.
True.
And while Arachne's tapestry depicted the gods in their amorous adventures, I guess that means doing the Benedict, Athena was enraged by the perfection of Arachne's work and tore it up.
Okay.
I assume that doesn't mean laid down a hot solo. I think it should probably ripped it to shreds.
Probably. The actual meaning of tore it up? Sure.
Arachne hung herself in despair. Well, that's an overreaction.
Yeah, she just didn't like it.
How about just go to over drink one night and sleep it off, and then you're back to normal. But don't hang yourself in despair.
She's the goddess of war. She could have done worse.
Boom. Anyway, she hung herself in despair. However, out of pity, Athena loosened the noose and turned it into a cobweb.
Oh.
Athena then turned Arachne into a spider. Well, so much for the
kind gesture.
The pity. Yeah. Athena turned Arachne into a spider, cursing her and her descendants to weave webs for eternity, which I guess is where Arachne becomes the word for spider.
Okay. Wow.
Because if you get arachnophobia, you have a fear of spiders.
And she was just online for eternity?
Yeah, she had said to be on the web.
Yeah, it's on the web, just surfing.
Yeah, the web.
Surfing for eternity. Well, bummer for her descendants, too, who had nothing to do with anything. They just...
Yeah. Hey, Grandma, why do I have to wait for eternity? Well, egg on my face. I challenged Athena.
Yeah, I made the perfect tapestry.
Oops. Apparently the gods don't like you to wear a sweater with them humping on it.
But she was enraged by the perfection of Arachne's work, so she really just didn't like that it was really good.
Down to the short and curlies. She got it right.
Yeah, you're the only one saying amorous adventures means that people are doing the nasty. We don't know that that's what that is. So, listen, not that this isn't fun, but let's just move it right along to fun facts.
All right, let's move on to our next chapter called Fun Facts.
Okay, you tell me. The title may come from the 1991 Metallica song, Unforgiven, or the 1992 Clint Eastwood film, Unforgiven.
Yeah, or it could just come from the word that's in the English language.
Unforgiven, sure.
It's one word.
Okay. If you want to be like that. I'm going to say Metallica song because that's what they do on the show. It's all...
Oh, you know what? I was going to go Eastwood, but you're right. They do kind of have a heavy musical bent.
Nearly every episode is named after a classic rock song.
You're not wrong. The episode was originally titled The Kiss of the Spider-Man, a take on the Kiss of the Spider-Woman, which I believe is a novel.
A play and a movie.
Who was in the movie? William Hurt.
I think he was in it, but the other guy was Raul Julia.
Oh, yeah, Raul Julia. And then who was the woman?
William Hurt. Sonia Braga was the Spider-Woman.
Sonia Braga.
But it's really William Hurt and Raul Julia who were the main two characters. The town sign on the way into Bristol displays the phrase, where memories are made.
Right.
Which is significant because Sam's remembering things.
Oh, maybe, because Sam's got memories coming back.
Was this the episode where they're talking about Mel Gibson?
Yeah, said he possessed.
Yeah. That was just an interesting sort of window into when this was.
Yeah, when I guess it was Mel Gibson. But I'm trying to remember what was happening with Mel Gibson at that point. Like, do you remember?
Wasn't it just like pulled over by the cop and the anti-Semitic rant that he did? Sam and Samuel used the names Agent Rourke and Agent Wynand when first investigating the town. Howard Rourke and Gail Wynand are characters from the Ayn Rand novel, The Fountainhead. Did you catch that, Richard?
No, that's way too erudite for me. Have you read Ayn Rand's anything?
No.
I read one. What's the one about the train? Is it Atlas Shrugged? I think I read that one. It's they're long reads.
Are they? Yeah, I've never done.
I decided I should read one, and a long time ago, and I read one. When I have not. Fountainhead, I guess, is the one that put her on the map.
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah, Fountainhead, yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
Some people really love it. All right, where were the restaurant scenes filmed, Richard?
Ladner. There's a Sharky's there, a seafood bar and grill. It's in Ladner, Canada, right outside of Vancouver.
Yeah, Sharky's Seafood Bar and Grill. That's where the restaurant scenes
Yeah, at Ladner.
were filmed. What restaurant scenes?
I guess where the guy got the captain's hat, like the birthday party.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For eating all that. Yeah, that was a pretty good hint, I thought.
I'm drawing a blank. What was the name of the town where the sound stages were?
Not Ladner.
No.
Burnaby.
Burnaby. That's right.
Okay.
Burnaby. Ladner.
Whew.
Burnaby.
Okay, what an epic episode.
Man, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
This episode, as you said, was a surprise. We didn't realize how good it was going to be until we started it, and it got really good really fast. It was really unique, very well directed.
Same with the podcast. Much like the episode itself, I thought this podcast got better and better.
Oh, man. I'll say.
Real treat. And we're counting down the episodes until we reach
9,000.
9,000. No, until we reach the French Mistake, which I'm really looking forward to.
That's a good one. That's one of the few we've both seen.
I don't know if I have.
It'll be the first time it'll be a rewatch. You've never seen French Mistake.
I can't remember.
I think, yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see, won't we?
Whew. Yeah, we will. My face hurts from laughing.
Well, that's good. All right. Well, we'll see everybody on the next episode. And thank you for listening to this one.
Yeah, thanks so much. We'll see you.
This episode of Supernatural features Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester, Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester.
Guest stars include Mitch Pileggi, Miranda Friggin, Joe Holt, Pauline Egan, William Vaughn, and Matita Barber.
Unforgiven was written by Andrew Dabb and Daniel Laughlin and directed by David Barrett.
Great job, all three of them.
Mm-hmm.
Editing by Anthony Pinker. Music by Jay Gruska.
Executive produced by Robert Singer, Sarah Gamble, and Eric Kripke.
This episode originally aired on February 7th, 2011, one day after my sister Barbie's birthday, and the birthday of Ronald Reagan.
This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Spade Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Ada Holscher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty. Music provided by Tim Wynn.
This episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Storymill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok at SPN Then and Now.
Become a member of the podcast to get early access, chat rooms with other podcast fans, and video interviews at patreon.com/SPN Then and Now. Is that what that is, Steve? Amorous adventures? Is that what
Yes, Dad.
Is that what you call doing the for me it's just another Tuesday.
If you had to kiss a Spider-Man, Rob, question to you. Would you go Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, or Andrew Garfield?
I guess Tobey.
Tobey Maguire.
Just because we're the same, generation.
And if you had to have that amorous encounter sewn on a sweater, would you go with like loving, something rough? Like how would you want it depicted, I guess, in a weave?
When did it become a sweater? Last I checked, it was a tapestry.
Yeah, but
look, man, I just want a tapestry, okay? I'm good on sweaters.
You're going to have to read it again. I was laughing. Say it again.
For the third time, the town sign on the way into Bristol displays the phrase where memories are made.
You and Tobey Maguire doing it
on a sweater. Yeah.
It's just
that's the takeaway.
Stuff of legends.
That's the takeaway for sure. I would have said Michael Lawshe and how wonderful of a guest he was, and how much I respect him as a sound mixer. But no, you go ahead and just remember a lie that you made up. Shut your face. All right.
It's like an ugly Christmas sweater. I could put you both in Santa hats.
No, it had nothing to do with it. Nowhere did it say they were weaving sweaters. It was tapestries.
Spider-Man can be leaving something in your stocking. You know what I mean?
Storymill Media.
If I play you something, will you promise not to tell anyone about it?
What is it?
There's a thing in the sky. You've got to get someone down here quick. It's fucked. It's moving. It's buzzing. It's getting closer, I think.
I need to talk to someone senior.
Putting you through now.
Don't put me. It's getting louder. I can feel it. I can feel it inside my head.
Listen to Hovering, the latest fiction horror show on Realm's premier horror channel, Undertow. Hovering is available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the ultimate social deduction game, Blood on the Clock Tower.
The evil team must stalk the streets at night, hunting down members of the good team one by one. Meanwhile, the good team must outmaneuver the evil team using their unique abilities.
I'd like to kick things off by telling you all that I'm possibly the demon.
Our players can mislead and manipulate others with absolute freedom.
I didn't like hearing my name in the same sentence as demon. That was very upsetting for me.
Emily and I will be your storytellers, guiding you through every labyrinthian twist and turn.
How are there so many evil players in this game? What's happening?
With guests from No Rolls Barred, the Pandemonium Institute, and Oxventure, you won't be able to stop listening. Go to realmspod.com/clocktower to find out more.